Hi there, it's Kent Holmes, Marketing Manager here at Apple Farm Service. I'm at the West College Corner location. We're starting our Kinze clinics. And today I'm talking with Tom Nattel, District Sales Manager for Kinze Manufacturing. And today, Tom, I thought we'd have some questions about blades.
Sure.
So the question always is, when do you change blades? What about bearings? So I guess we can start. You have a Kinze blade here if you want to hold that up. So I guess the first question someone asks, when should we change blades? What would you say?
So the proper time to change the blades on your planer is when they wear down to 14.5-inch diameter.
Okay.
That's the proper way to measure them and determine when they need replaced.
Okay, and then for most people, just probably a tape measure, right?
Yep, tape measure, or what you're holding there, you got a handy little tool.
Yeah.
That you can lay on here and measure them. Backside's flat, so that you can go ahead and measure those and determine when they need replaced.
Yeah, you mentioned the tool, and so I thought this would be a good time to mention. We had a local customer of ours actually make these for us. They're really handy. We have had a lot of, especially on social media, people interested in these. So they made this handy tool that you can use. So if you're out and you're on your planter, you're out in the field, tape measure is kind of hard to get to on, especially when you have, you got a 24-row planter.
Yep.
Well, you got 48 of them you got to measure. It could take you some time.
Yep.
So we have this special little tool, and I'll show you how it works. I'll give you a close-up here too, but literally you just put it right up next to it, and there's a little guide here that if you see that the notch, the edge of the blade, is below this line here for your John Deere or your Kinze blade, it's time to replace them. The next line, your C&H blade, time to replace it. Or if you have a Great Plains piece, next time you need to change your blade. So it's a really handy tool. We have them available at all our locations. They're really inexpensive, $15. And then we'll order some new ones in. They might be a little bit more after that, but probably close to 15. So you can stop by any of the stores and pick these up. Nice guide. But when we posted a video about this, Tom, we had a lot of people have some questions about it. Maybe you can help us out with. The first question was, in the comment was, why don't I just run them until there's no bevel left on the blade? Why should we not do that?
So the reason that the measurement's so critical is because there's only so much adjustment on these on the planer. And what you want is you want a perfect V-shaped trench for your seed to fall into when the pair of these is cutting through the dirt. And what happens is if they get too small, you will start to get a W shape in the bottom of your trench instead of a V, which leads to poor planting.
Okay. And then the follow-up question a lot of people have is, why don't I just run until my bearings are out? Why should they not do that?
It goes back to the measurements. The bearings may or may not last depending on the conditions that you run them in, speeds that you're running them in. But it all goes down to the measurement. It's not just the bearing spinning, how that bottom of that trench shape is.
Okay. I guess the last question I have for you with bearings, because people have mentioned too that, my bearings will go out before I need to do that. Do you have any tips or suggestions as far as just making sure that your bearings maybe can last longer than maybe you have in the past?
It's very dependent on the conditions that you run in. There's people that say that they wear them out long before the bearings ever go, and there's people that wear out the bearings long before the disc goes. So it's very dependent. Making sure that they're shimmed properly, making sure that you have the right amount of contact on them. Those types of things will make sure that you get the longest life out of them that you can.
Sure. And I guess one last question I have when it comes to blades, because I remember at clinics, you always do this test. How can you test to make sure your blades are set where they need to be?
So the way that we recommend is that you put 2 pieces of paper or business cards in them, and you should have 1 inch plus or minus a half where you can't slide those business cards through. The other way to test them is to hold one, and you should be able to spin the other. If it spins freely, it's too loose. If you can't spin it, it's too tight. But you should be able to hold one while you spin the other easily.
And when you're out in the field, what would you recommend? How often should someone probably stop to check that?
Daily.
Daily?
Yeah.
Okay, so before every day, go out there and check it. And get this handy tool here to see if you've had a day where maybe you went through a lot of rocks, you might have a lot more wear. So it might be time to change some of those blades.
Yep.
Perfect. Well, Tom Nattel from Kinze here with Apple Farm Service. Appreciate the time.
Thanks
So much.
Yep.
Apple Farm Service, Kent Holmes here, your local Kinze dealer. Place to stop in for all your Kinze parts. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks.